All right, everybody. How are you? My name is Paris Pittman. I work at Google. I'm actually filling in for George today as he takes a plane back home from San Francisco. Thanks again for joining us for today's edition of Kubernetes Office Hours. Today we're going to answer your user questions live on air with our esteemed panel of experts. You can find us in the Office Hours channel on Slack and check the topic URL for any of the details that you need. Today, let's go ahead and introduce ourselves. Again, my name's Paris. We also have Ilya on the line. Ilya, would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Ilya. I work for VWorks in London. I've been contributing to Kubernetes since about 2014 and been taking active part in this office hours calls for the EU edition specifically. So looking forward to hearing your questions today and hope I can help to answer some of these.
Awesome. Thanks again, Ilya, for always doing this for us. This is a awesome value add to the project. So before we start, some really quick ground rules. First one, this is a judgment-free zone as always. Everyone has to start from somewhere, so please help your body out by having a supportive environment in the Office Hours channel and all channels in the Kubernetes project. While we're going to do the best to answer your questions, the panel doesn't have access to your cluster, so live debugging is off topic, but we're going to do our best to get you moving down and forward. Ilya, you're also encouraged to expand on answers with your experiences and pro tips. Audience, you can help by pasting in URLs to official docs, blogs, or anything that might be relevant to the topic on hand. You can also help us out by tweeting, spreading the word, and paying it forward. Each session is recorded and available on YouTube. If you're using this as a work resource, please let us know how we're doing so we can make it better for you. If you want to sit on the panel and spread your knowledge about Kubernetes and the project, you're more than welcome. Or you can help us take notes as well. I do need a note taker today, so if there's anybody out there taking notes in the Office Hours Slack channel, there is the link to the notes. Feel free to help us out with that. We're also looking for some more marketing help and word of mouth. So feel free to help us out with that too. Share on Twitter, share on any social media that you're on. And lastly, feel free to hang out in the Office Hours Slack channel for help if you cannot get answers in Kubernetes users and various other channels. You're more than welcome to hang out with us there. All right, so our first question is up. And we have several in the Office Hours Slack channel today. The first question, Ilya, that I'm seeing looks like it has to do with API versions. And the person has noticed that deployments have gone from API version extension / beta 1 to API version apps / v1. Where can we keep track of resources API versions that need to be upgraded, and what should they be upgraded to?
Very good question. Yeah, that was a big change in the 1.9 release that all the workload APIs became much more mature and they all v1 now. All the daemon sets and replica sets and deployments moved to apps v1 API group. And I think primarily that was announced in the release notes. And I guess the first place to find out about this would be the release notes. But in most of the cases, you may be still able to use the old beta APIs. And you can use kubectl convert to convert from a beta API to a stable API. I mean, having said that, this has been a big change in 1.9, and it is much less likely for such change to occur anytime soon, right? So if you find the conversion a little bit tedious, then just keep in mind that this isn't something that we'll have to do again soon, right?
Fair. All right. And to whoever asked that question, feel free to chime in with any add-ons too. All right, we're going to go ahead to the next question. What are some challenges and best practices for adopting RBAC in legacy environments?
This sounds like a very open-ended question to me. It'd be good to hear a bit more about the specific use case. So I guess you may be talking about integrating RBAC with Active Directory or something like that you already have in place, and you'd like to bridge from your Active Directory or any kind of LDAP server to Kubernetes RBAC. I think that had been done in the past, and there are some examples out there. And if you haven't found any, I guess you probably didn't look for the right things in the right place, or I'm just thinking that maybe you found it. You didn't refer to anything specific, but these things are usually essentially done through add-ons to Kubernetes, right? Kubernetes doesn't basically implement RBAC to LDAP integrations, for instance. So you have to look for an add-on that does that. I can recall of a friend that had implemented one type of LDAP Kubernetes integration, which I'm sure you can find in GitHub. And if you're looking for something else, I'd like to hear more about your specific use case.
All right. And Ilya, they are in the chat, so later feel free to ping them with some more details there. All right. Next, what is the acceptance guidance for determining whether to use a single node pool with nodes matching your most expensive workload, or multiple node pools with nodes matching the specs of the desired workload? Single pool with beefy machines or multiple pools with workload-specific tuning? Never thought I would say beefy machines on live. Here we are.
It really depends how what sort of diversity you have amongst your workload types, right? So node pools are very a specific feature you find in GKE, but it is the fact that it's there doesn't mean you have to use it. You could just have one node pool and run all your workloads there. If you have a more specific use case, you may need node pools, but you don't really have to use them, right? So unless you know the specific thing you're looking for instance, you may have a node pool with things that have GPUs in them. That is one very specific use case, right? Or you can have a node pool which runs all of your workloads, and you have that is not auto-scaled, and you can add an auto-scaling node pool whenever you have to scale up or down, right? So there are very specific use cases when you might want to use them. I think it's not an essential feature you have to look at into just because it exists. But you'd probably want to talk to somebody from Google team about this.
I'm sorry, Ilya, what team was that?
I'm just saying somebody from Google should be able to help describing these use cases, because I've actually not used node pools for anything beyond basic, right? So it is a GKE specific feature.
Okay. And if the question holder is listening, and I'll also post in the chat after we stop live streaming, so I'm not banging on the keyboard, but there is a GKE Kubernetes Slack channel if you'd like to ask questions in there. All right. So next question that we have for today, should I use Kubernetes in all environments, dev, test, production, or just in production?
Well, I definitely recommend using Kubernetes everywhere you can. Unless you're, I'm not entirely sure what kind of use case it would be where you run Kubernetes in production and do something else in test and dev. I'm not so sure what kind of use case it would be. So I would definitely recommend looking at using Kubernetes everywhere. there's still a question to ask whether you might want to um, have one Kubernetes cluster for all the things for all of your environments, or have separate clusters, right? Or have one cluster for dev and test, have separate cluster for production. Well, that's actually something you could also achieve with GKE node pools, by the way. So that is one of the use cases for node pools, that you could use a node pool to ensure that your your applications running in the same cluster that belong to different environments do not run on the same machines, and thereby some regressions in your dev staging will not affect the production workloads.
So, should this user be using Kubernetes in continuous integration pipelines? Examples, they want to verify that deploying my application to a cluster works. Is using Minikube in a CI system to test this sensible?
Yes, I've met a lot of folks who use Minikube in CI, and it is a fairly sensible solution. However, your depending on what kind of application you run, whether you're looking to deploy your entire bunch of microservices at once in CI, that may be quite timely, and that could, your Minikube instance in CI may run out of resources depending on what kind of CI system you run. But essentially, that's something that I've seen folks doing. But one other approach could be to have a cluster dedicated to CI use, and deploy to new namespaces from there, for example. So there are different ways to go about this with Kubernetes. So it really depends on what would you like to optimize.
All right. And I think the individual said that they cannot join the office hours live stream today, so that they might have follow-up questions for you. Next, how do I share the configuration for accessing my Kubernetes cluster? Example, a new developer has joined the team and they need access to a cluster. How do I share the configuration for connecting?
Oh, that is a very good question. So it really depends on how would you like to manage your secrets, right? So we see some folks who assume that it's secure enough that all the credentials into Git, and once the developer has access to Git, they can access the cluster. But however, that is not secure enough for your organization. You may like to do something a bit more sophisticated. One ideal case would be to issue new credentials to each user. So create users within Kubernetes that have different credentials for their own use, and nobody else sees their credentials. Those credentials dedicated to them. But it is not always as easy, especially if you run Kubernetes yourself. It is quite easy in GKE and other hosted products. However, if you're running Kubernetes yourself, it's maybe a little more complex. One of the answers to this problem would be to isolate the production system through what we call a GitOps approach, where developers can deploy to Kubernetes anything they like, but it has to go through a Git repo, and thereby goes to code review whenever they make changes to it, etc. So this approach involves having a Git reconciliation operator in your cluster, and not letting anyone to access the cluster directly. So unless they want to troubleshoot it, so it's sort of like root level access that may be needed once you run into some trouble with anything that runs in your cluster, and you have to do some maintenance or verify that. In rare cases like this, you may need to have somebody who will have root level access. However, for everyday deployments, you can actually manage that through a Git repository and a Git reconciliation operator. That is an approach that we implemented and works. And I'm more than happy to talk to you about that. Because it makes it very easy to sort of isolate the access to the cluster unless really, really needed for administration, right? So for your everyday deployment, you don't have to expose the API access to the internet, so the CI tools. Instead, what you do, you push images and Git reconciliation operator takes care of ensuring that those images run in the cluster. As I said, I'm happy to talk more about specifics of how we implement such a thing.
Awesome. Thanks, Ilya. And to those that are watching, I am recording, so I have limited typing capabilities. So if there are any other questions, please feel free to drop those in the office hours Slack channel on the Kubernetes Slack instance. All right, and then our next question. Let's see. How does Kubernetes map volumes, specifically volume claims? More specifically, static volumes. Looks like for PVC there is claim ref. And then you had asked a follow-up question, which is it just a local volume like host path? And the question holder has NFS in this case, but they would expect that there might be a common way to map these.
Okay, so let me just check the docs on this. So if you have an FS volume source, you essentially specify that in your array of volumes of the pod stack, right? And then from there you reference that for the amounts for each of the containers. It really is based on specific drivers. So to be honest with you, I don't have that much experience in volume with Kubernetes. The only kind of volumes I use get on GKE out of the box. I've not actually done much with NFS volumes myself, so I'd rather defer this question to perhaps somebody in the next call for the US edition. Then they may have an answer for you more specifically. Yeah, not so familiar with storage, I'm afraid.
All right, and Ilya, I'm actually fishing for our next question here. Let's see. Well, first question is, how are you today? All right. I think I just got one here.
I'm making this call from a cafe today. I apologize if there's been too much background noise. Unfortunately, I couldn't be in the office right now.
Let's see.
It's not office hours, it's coffee hours.
Well, cheers. Yeah, it's still dark here on the West Coast, so I need some eggs here in a second. Let's see. Well, I have a question. So if there is one change coming up that you know about in 1.10 that users should be aware of, or maybe something that you think is cool in 1.10 that users should be aware of, what is it?
Well, what I've been working on for 1.10 is mostly to do with cleaning up the docs and removing some of the old getting started guides that probably ended up confusing users rather than providing useful information. So there was a bunch of really detailed content there. So that's one of the tasks that I took on for 1.10. Besides that, I have heard that the way that kubectl apply works is going to be reworked. Hopefully in 1.10 we may have an alpha version of server-side kubectl apply. But that is just something I heard that I thought was really cool. I'm not entirely sure whether that will be happening for sure or not. I'll be really looking forward to see an alpha version of server-side kubectl apply. So right now, if you want to use a Kubernetes client, let's say Python client or even a Go client, you can't do the same that kubectl does, and in most of the cases you'll probably end up shelling out kubectl rather than using the library. So server-side version of kubectl apply would be is something that you're looking for.
All right, and then let's see here. I just saw another one. I think you actually answered this when we were talking about credentials before, but just in case we didn't. And if we did, by the way, just go ahead and say that, and I'll just tell them to check the recording. But how do you share the Kubernetes cluster without passing the admin credentials?
So yeah, I can talk a bit more about that. So I mean, the kind of approach that we take is what we call GitOps, and essentially it's about deploying through checking config into a Git repo and going through code review, merging whatever changes you make to config, and having an operator inside the cluster that ensures that what's in Git is what is what's in the cluster, right? So Git is the source of truth, and you don't actually need to access the cluster unless you're troubleshooting something. So this is the kind of approach that we take. I know that folks do some other things, but we find it quite insecure to put credentials for the cluster into CI, for example, and let CI deploy using those credentials, right? And what do you do if you like move clusters? Do you have to go and reconfigure every CI job now? That becomes quite tedious. And yeah, so I have to say that at present it's not particularly easy to issue new users with credentials for your cluster unless you're using GKE or something like that, like a hosted product. So if you're running Kubernetes, you hope to create new users with new credentials that you can get. I'm not aware of any add-ons that do that. I know that APIs exist for doing it, but it's not something that we have a sort of go for solution.
All right. All right, and then next question is coming to us from our Kubernetes users channel. The person doesn't have a good DNS set on pods. They get the node's DNS setting, but just on my new node, not on my cluster. Any idea? Tried to add a node to their cluster, and it seems like they can't use kubedns. Stuck on this issue. Any help or advice or pointers? This might be a little specific, not necessarily that general.
Well, I guess my first question would be whether they're using what they are using for ADM or something similar to that, or they're going Kubernetes, the hub. Perhaps I'll ask those questions in the stuff.
Okay, yeah, I was about to do the same thing, but if you could, that would be awesome, just so I'm not typing in everyone's ear. Okay, in the meantime, though, I'll go ahead and ask you another question. It's about GitOps, actually. Oh, and they just joined the Office Hours Slack channel, too, by the way, the question from the last one. So Joel Ryan in the Office Hours Slack said, are there any good examples and links for GitOps, possibly using Helm? Obviously, we don't talk about links out loud, but any good examples that you can share verbally with the crew watching?
We've been busy working on Helm integration for our GitHub installation operator. I think actually we were reviewing a pull request like last night with my colleagues. So I think actually we just landed the initial implementation, but it will require a little more testing before we can release it. So the reason we did this is that if you use Helm just out of the box, you end up installing things into your cluster in ad hoc fashion. So you don't actually track what is it installed in your cluster outside of the cluster, right? So if you were to rebuild the cluster, for example, or bring a new cluster for whatever reason, you might have like a new environment that you spin up. Uh, it's hard to tell what all the Helm charts that are installed in that cluster, what values are being used. I mean, obviously you can query your running cluster with the Helm command, but uh, it doesn't give you a really complete view into what's everything installed and what versions are there. And it's much easier to actually check it all into Git and track it in Git, because that's what Git is good for, right? So we created a third-party resource for common custom resource definition. I'm still using the old terminology sometimes. Custom resource definition for a Helm release that you can check into Git and pin down the version of a chart you're using and pin down specific values you want to use for that chart, for that release of the chart. And then we were able to make updates to that custom resource definition from Git. So I'd be really keen to share this with you sometime soon. Once it's more ready for folks to test out. I think right now we're looking to do some internal testing first.
Sounds exciting. Everyone's looking forward to it. So it looks like the answer to your question previously was the individual using KubeADM or something else. They said no, that they have an Ansible role enterprise creation to install the node with different component. Everything seems to be okay on deployment. The node is set ready and pods are well scheduled on it. Let me go back to the original question as well here. Looks like they don't have a good DNS set on pods. Get the node's DNS setting, just not on the new node. Just on the new node, not in the cluster. Any idea? Tried to add a node to my cluster and it seems like I can't use the kube DNS. And they're using Ansible. Any idea on this one? It's just really specific, so if not, we can...
Yeah, it would be hard to sort of answer it in general terms like this. I would need to look at configuration, etc. And I think we have time for it here. But yeah, I think I may be able to help later on slide.
Okay, yeah, that's what I figured. No worries there. All right, we are still pulling in questions, and it looks like, I can't believe I'm saying that the user channel looks somewhat clean. Usually there's always an unanswered question in here. Let's see. Okay. I don't think this individual got an answer. If they did, then oh well, we'll answer it live again on air. Does it matter which namespace monitoring metrics logging apps are deployed? Or is it okay to leave in default namespace? Or should they all be in the namespace together? What are the pros, the cons?
Is that in the users channel? Yeah, I'm trying to find it.
Yep, it's in the users channel. And if you scroll up, a few above your posting today about it, you'll see it. They did not go into any more details, so they're just pretty much asking about default namespaces and if they should be all in the same namespace together, and the pros and the cons.
Okay, yeah, well, I think this is a very frequently asked question, actually, yeah. So, it's really recommended to make good use of namespaces. There are no, I mean, of course, namespaces, like most of the things in Kubernetes, are not very prescriptive about how you use them, right? So what we do at vWorks, we use namespaces and we use namespaces for each of the subsets of the kind of user-facing functionality, right? For different parts of the product, or groups of microservices. For example, we have a billing namespace, and we have a namespace for our time series database, and we have a namespace for our deployment service, and a few other namespaces. Excuse me. For example, we have a monitoring namespace where we run Grafana and Prometheus, and like an extra namespace, which is just called extra, where we run random bits that are perhaps less critical, and we also have a few things in default namespace, but very few. And one of the things that run in default namespace is the front-end service for some reason. So this is kind of the way that we organize our services in Kubernetes. Basically, yes, we have a namespace of a distinct piece of functionality, right? And each of the namespaces is usually mostly independent from one another. So let's say everything running in the monitoring namespace looks at like Prometheus, etc., is something that doesn't depend on anything that runs in a billing namespace, for example, right? But it is monitoring the what's on the billing namespace, of course, but it isn't really directly dependent. However, like everything in billing namespace uh, would be closely related. Let's say there's a memcache server in billing namespace that all the billing services use, and these kind of things. And we would run, let's say, yeah, memcache would be a good example. We run memcache for per namespace. Each namespace has a memcache service. Hope this sort of is a good gives you a good idea of how we use it, and you know you may like to use it differently, but yeah, essentially the recommendation is not to use default namespaces whenever you can. It's very easy to end up with everything in the default namespace, and yeah, it's just you know it's a good practice to organize your services in different namespaces if you can.
Cool. Thanks, Ilya. And this question is surrounding the how of control loops. So they actually picked out a quote from a piece of our docs, and the quote is, "A control loop in the master watches for new PVCs, finds a matching PV if possible, and binds them together." And the question asker would like to know how. Like, how is that going on? What's going on there?
So this is very specific to PVCs. I think, well, it's like PVCs, as in my understanding, at least my limited understanding of storage, you don't necessarily have to have a PVC for your PV, right? You can create a PV and then you can use that, or alternative is to use a PVC where you have but essentially PVC is, in my understanding at least, something that would talk to your storage provider and ensure that storage provider creates a particular volume that, as you specified, and then there will and then essentially PVC creates a PV. PVC is kind of a like a deployment for pods, well, for replica set for pods. I mean, at least that's the way I see it. But maybe I'm the wrong person to ask, really. I've not used storage in Kubernetes very much, to be honest.
And what would be a good contact, or maybe a better Slack channel for that question?
Well, I would definitely ask in seek storage, right?
Okay. All right. And then we have another how kind of question. And this is how volume claims are actually working. they said that they found some information in our docs about persistent volume, but no clue how to actually use them. This is probably a storage question too, but do you have any insight here?
I'm afraid I must admit that I find the volumes related documentation rather hard to parse through. So last time I used volumes was on GKE, and I used the documentation on the the documentation, GKE specific documentation in the GCP docs. So yeah, I was struggling to pass the Kubernetes IO docs on storage, to be honest with you. So I can hear your pain, and I wish I could help, but unfortunately, I'm not really working on storage. So yeah, I would prefer to seek storage for some of those questions.
All right. It looks like they went on to explain some more in the chat, and that they know how to use volume claims and templates, but not how to mount such a static persistent volume. And from what they get, that they have to use a volume claim because that's the only thing that can mount in a pod. So they need a volume claim that's fulfilled by the volume, and there seems to be not many docs on that piece. So we should just, so if you want, I can just let them know to visit SIG storage and see what they say about that. All right, next question. It looks like someone has a pod that exposes REST API, and it's secured by basic auth. They want to add a readiness probe. Is there any option to use environment as a value of a header in the readiness probe?
Oh, that's an interesting question. So essentially, you want to see whether well, in some places you can essentially use so-called downward API, and you can reference environment variables or something from Big Mouth. I'd have to double check, and I can go and do that now real quick. Whether that's the Google Live or already this program.
Yeah.
Just have a quick look whether they could use the Big Mouth or secret to specify the reference base.
Looks like they also tried it with exec probe as well and could not receive any access to the pod environment. And that the environment variables not get set. Tried to use interpolation in executive script using pod environments. This also seems pretty specific as well. And I am also trying to get our next question. Did you say you are trying to answer that? I'm sorry. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I'll just type in some. But it's pretty specific.
Okay. All right. I am looking for our next question here. All right. So far, not much. Let's see. Anything else exciting in the land of Kubernetes that you'd like users to know about while you have a couple minutes? And will I fish for our next question?
Well, KubeCon sessions.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like, yeah, we started to hear about some of the upcoming sessions for KubeCon. So that's been pretty exciting. One of my colleagues is going to give a talk on how we use Prometheus and Jaeger to monitor and continuously improve performance of our applications. So that's the one I'm aware of. I've seen a few other pop up on Twitter. So keep watching this space and you know, all the usual Twitter accounts. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure which sessions are no, and they haven't announced the full schedule yet. But I think
No, I think they did. The full schedule's out. I believe
oh,
there,
is it?
yeah, yep. I think there are some missing keynotes, but I believe the full schedule is out. Yep.
Okay, that's great. So yeah, have a look at the KubeCon website and have a look at what sessions there are, and you know, you can still probably get some cheap tickets.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's definitely exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing everybody in Copenhagen in May. It'll be
I'm
lovely weather, and Copenhagen was great when I went there for DynaCon last.
Yes, I am also extremely excited as well. This will be my first time in Copenhagen, and not my first KubeCon, but I'm very excited to see everyone. All right, I just put a last call for questions out there. It looks like Kubernetes users might have some more stuff going on. Let's see here. Um, No, I don't really see anything. I see a lot of very specific questions and then more stuff related to the storage questions, how we were asking earlier. Um, Ilya, do you think we should just wrap?
I suppose.
Okay.
So sounds like good time, and yeah. Well, looking forward to next session, and hopefully in a month we'll have more folks join, and we definitely always look for folks to help on the panel. Because as you could see today, I completely failed to answer any of the storage questions that my friend Fish had. Fish, I must apologize to you. I haven't been able to answer any of those.
It's all good. We will get Fish straightened out
So
and
those was you know.
all right. So we just always want to say a quick thanks to all of the companies that allow Ilya and other contributors to spend their time on office hours. Um, folks in particular, VMware, Weaveworks, Red Hat, Pivotal, Packet, Northwestern Mutual, Liquid Web, Heptio, Giant Swarm, Bitnami, Amazon, Google. Um, Soon, I know George, who is the regular host, is going to be doing some swag giveaways and things like that for question askers. So feel free to drop back into office hours. As always, our office hours information is posted in the Kubernetes Slack instance, hashtag office hours. Feel free to hang out in the chat or hang out really anywhere with us. All right, so we are wrapping this call. I am ending this Zoom meeting and we are stopping the stream. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed my first time. Really quick plug for Meet Our Contributors, which happens every first Wednesday of the month. This is a office hours type session for contributors. So if you are a contributor listening to the call, or someone that would like to push code upstream, or docs for that matter, feel free to join our Meet Our Contributors Slack channel. All right. Thanks so much, Ilya.
Oh, one more thing before we go. If you're watching us from London, we have Kubernetes meetup tonight. It's around 6 o'clock in the city, just off Cannon Street Station. So yeah, take a look at the meetup page. You probably know where to find it. But I can post it in Slack too.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Kubernetes London first meetup of 2009.
Yeah. Yeah, London. Get your Kubernetes on. All right. Bye, y'all.
Thanks, Paris. Thanks. Bye-bye.